I was purposely left out of the family dinner, so I decided to leave them out of my life. When I cut everything off, they freaked out. Looking back at everything that happened, I can finally see that I've spent most of my life being the invisible member of my family. Not physically invisible, of course, but emotionally. I was always there, always helping, always showing up, but somehow never fully seen. It's strange how someone can occupy physical space, yet still be treated as if they're not quite there. Like a ghost moving through the house, acknowledged only when something needs to be fixed or a favor needs to be granted. I'm 32 now, and only in the past year have I recognized the pattern that's been present since childhood. I was the reliable one, the one who would drop everything to help mom with her broken appliances, the one who would lend sister money when she was short on rent, the one who would drive nephew to his hockey practices when my brother was too busy. I was the family safety net, always catching everyone when they fell, but no one was ever there to catch me. I can't count the times I've sat alone in my apartment after helping everyone else, wondering why no one ever asked how I was doing or if I needed anything. The realization didn't come all at once. It was a slow build of small moments, forgotten birthdays, interrupted conversations, and inside jokes I wasn't part of. The time I spent 3 hours searching for the perfect gift for mom's birthday, only to have her open it with a distracted, "Oh, thanks," before turning back to sister's present. The Christmas when everyone received thoughtful gifts from the family fund I mainly contributed to, while I got a generic gift card. The countless family photos where I was conveniently positioned at the edge, easy to crop out. But there was one definitive moment when everything crystallized, when I finally understood my place in the family hierarchy. It was 6 months ago, at nephew's 8th birthday party. The whole family was there. Mom, dad, sister, brother, sister's husband, brother's wife, our aunts, uncles, cousins, the usual suspects of our tight-knit but dysfunctional family tree. I had spent the entire morning helping mom set up the backyard for the party, inflating balloons, hanging decorations, setting up tables. I arrived at 7 in the morning while everyone else strolled in just before the party started at 1 in the afternoon. Sister arrived 2 hours late with the cake she had promised to bring, but no one said a word about her tardiness. When I had once been 15 minutes late to a family gathering due to a work emergency, I was greeted with exasperated sighs and pointed comments about reliability. I was chatting with Aunt, catching up on family news, when she mentioned something about the lasagna at the family dinner last weekend. I felt a sudden hollow feeling in my stomach. "What family dinner?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. Aunt's face changed, that split-second flash of realization, followed by awkward backpedaling. "Oh, just a small get-together at your mom's place. Nothing formal," but I could tell from her expression that it had been much more than that. My whole family had gathered for dinner, without me. I scanned my memory for any missed invitation, any announcement I might have forgotten. There was nothing. They simply hadn't included me. I excused myself and found sister, who was scrolling through her phone by the punch bowl. "Did everyone have dinner at mom's house last weekend?" I asked directly. She looked up, annoyed at the interruption. "Yeah, what about it? I wasn't invited." She shrugged, her eyes already drifting back to her screen. "Maybe next time you'll take the hint." Those words hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't an oversight. It wasn't a mistake. They had deliberately excluded me. The casual cruelty of her response suggested this wasn't even the first time, just the first time I'd caught on. I stood there, punch cup in hand, watching my family laugh and celebrate around me. I had spent hundreds of dollars on nephew's birthday gift, a gaming console he had been begging for all year. I had taken the day off work to help with preparations, losing a day's pay in the process. I had been the one to pick up elderly grandma and bring her to the party because no one else wanted to make the detour, and yet I wasn't even worth including in a family dinner. Later, Aunt approached me with her phone, showing me photos from the dinner I hadn't been invited to. "Look how nice everyone looks," she said, seemingly oblivious to the pain she was causing. In the photos, they were all there, gathered around mom's dining table that I had helped refinish last summer. They were wearing nice clothes, raising wine glasses that I had gifted mom for Christmas. They were celebrating something, I still don't know what, without the slightest thought of including me. As I drove home that night, I replayed years of similar moments in my mind. The family vacation photos where I was always the one taking the picture. The Christmas mornings where my gifts were clearly afterthoughts, generic gift cards or store-bought cookies, while others received thoughtful, personalized presents. The way conversations would shift when I joined, or how I was consistently seated at the far end of the table, away from the main discussion. The vacation plans made without consulting my schedule, and then the guilt trips when I couldn't attend because of work commitments that had been in place for months. I had spent my entire life trying to earn my place in a family that had never planned to give me one. They didn't see me as essential to the family unit. I was an accessory, useful when needed but easily set aside when inconvenient. That night, something broke inside me, but something stronger formed in its place. I made a decision. If they didn't want me in their family, I would stop acting like I was part of it. No more emergency financial bailouts, no more free handyman services, no more being the family doormat, no more desperately seeking approval through acts of service that were never appreciated. The next morning, I made a list of all the ways I had been supporting my family, financially and otherwise. It was longer than I expected, and seeing it all written down made me realize just how much I had been giving without receiving anything in return. Monthly transfers to Mom's account to help with the bills, $500 every month for the past 5 years. Regular maintenance on Dad's truck, saving him at least $2,000 yearly in mechanic fees. Sister's business investment, $15,000 that was never repaid. Regular babysitting for nephew and niece, at least 2 weekends a month. Co-ownership of the family lake house, which I paid 60% of the costs for, despite using it less than anyone. Weekly grocery deliveries for grandma, approximately $150 weekly. Tech support for everyone's devices, countless hours of unpaid labor. Hosting and paying for the family cell phone plan, 6 lines averaging $300 monthly. Emergency fund contributions for brother's medical expenses, over $7,000 in the past year alone. Acting as the designated driver at every family function, while everyone else enjoyed themselves. One by one, I began to disentangle myself from these responsibilities. I didn't make announcements or create confrontations. I simply stopped. I canceled the automatic transfers to Mom's account. I removed everyone from my cell phone plan after giving them 30 days notice, which they ignored. I informed Grandma's grocery store that I would no longer be funding her deliveries. I didn't announce my decisions or justify them. I just quietly stepped back and waited for the inevitable fallout. The first call came 3 days later when Mom's internet went down. I let it go to voicemail. "The router is acting up again. Can you come by after work to fix it? Also, the bathroom sink is still leaking. It's getting worse and there's a puddle on the floor. I need you to look at it tomorrow at the latest." I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded her the contact information for a local handyman service. 2 days after that, Sister texted asking for a small loan of $800 for a car repair. "It's an emergency," she wrote. "I need to get to work tomorrow." This was the same sister who had bought a designer bag last month while still owing me thousands. I didn't respond. Later that evening, she sent another text. "Hello? Did you get my message? I need the money tonight." I silenced my phone and went to bed early, experiencing a strange sense of peace. The following week, brother called asking if I could take nephew to his tournament on Saturday, because he and his wife had made dinner plans with friends. I declined with a simple, "Sorry, I'm busy that day." The confusion in his voice was palpable. "But you never have plans on weekends." "Things change," I replied, and ended the call. The truth was, I did have plans with myself. I had booked a day at a local spa, something I had always wanted to do, but never found the time for because I was always at someone else's beck and call. Within 2 weeks, the messages became more frequent and increasingly desperate. Mom called 6 times in one day, leaving progressively annoyed voicemails. "I don't understand what's going on with you. The sink is still leaking. Did I do something to upset you? This is really inconsiderate. Your father thinks you're being childish. Call me back immediately." Sister sent a series of texts that evolved from casual requests to outright demands, finishing with, "What the hell is wrong with you? After everything we've done for you, this is how you act. So selfish." I remained silent, letting their words wash over me without reaction. It was fascinating how quickly their tone changed from expectant to entitled to outright hostile when their demands weren't met. It confirmed everything I had suspected about the transactional nature of their love. By the end of the month, the family group chat was buzzing with speculation about my behavior. I could see the messages but didn't participate in the conversation. They ranged from concerned, "Is he depressed?" to irritated, "He's being so dramatic," to outright angry. After everything we've done for him, everything they'd done for me, the irony was almost laughable. I scrolled through years of messages, trying to find instances where they had gone out of their way to help me, to support me, to include me. There were precious few examples, and most came with strings attached. The real test came when the quarterly maintenance fee for the lake house was due. This property had been in our family for generations and was supposedly co-owned by me, sister, and brother, though I had contributed the majority of the purchase price when Grandpa wanted to sell it 6 years ago. Despite this, I rarely got to use it. Somehow the calendar was always mysteriously full when I wanted to book a weekend. Last summer, I had tried to reserve it for a week in August, only to be told that sister had already claimed the entire month for family time, a family that apparently didn't include me. I had paid my share of maintenance fees religiously for years, covering extra when sister or brother were short. This time, I let the due date pass without sending money. The property management company would have to contact all owners about the shortfall. Dad called the next day. "There's some issue with your lake house payment." "I'm not paying it anymore," I said simply. "What do you mean? You can't just stop paying your share." "Actually, I can. I've reviewed the ownership agreement with a lawyer. Since I own 60%, I can choose to sell my portion at any time. I'm also not obligated to cover other owners' shortfalls, which I've been doing for years." There was a stunned silence on the other end. "You wouldn't do that. That house has been in our family for 4 generations. I'm not doing anything yet. I'm just not paying for a property I never get to use." I hung up before he could respond, before he could try to manipulate me with more family history or obligation. The truth was, I had already consulted with a real estate attorney about my options. As the majority owner, I had more rights than my siblings realized. I could force a sale if necessary, though I hoped it wouldn't come to that. The lake house situation escalated when Memorial Day weekend approached. Traditionally, the first big family gathering of the summer season. I received an email from Sister with the subject line, "Lake House Schedule," informing everyone that the family would be gathering there from Friday through Monday, with detailed meal plans and activity schedules. My name was on the email list, but there was no specific acknowledgement of whether I was expected to attend. In previous years, I had been assigned cleaning duties before everyone's arrival and cooking responsibilities during the stay. I replied to all with a simple message: "The property is not available that weekend." The response was immediate and chaotic. Multiple calls, texts, and emails poured in, all demanding explanations. Mom called 7 times in an hour. Sister sent a furious email accusing me of ruining a family tradition out of spite. Brother texted that his kids had been looking forward to the weekend for months and were now devastated. I didn't provide any explanations. I didn't engage with the emotional manipulation. I simply exercised my rights as the majority property owner. On Thursday evening, I drove to the lake house and placed a simple sign on the door: "Property closed for maintenance." Then I sat on the deck with a book and waited. The sunset over the lake was beautiful, and for once I could enjoy it in peace, without being interrupted by demands to help with dinner or fix someone's Wi-Fi connection. They began arriving around noon on Friday, cars loaded with coolers, bags, and excited children. Their faces, when they saw me sitting calmly on the deck, ranged from confusion to outrage. I had never before asserted my authority or challenged the family status quo, and they clearly didn't know how to process this new development. Mom approached first. "What's going on? Why is the house closed?" "As the majority owner, I've decided the property needs assessment before it can be safely used," I explained calmly. "I've scheduled inspectors for next week." Brother stepped forward. "This is ridiculous. We've been planning this weekend for months." "Perhaps you should have consulted with the majority owner first," I replied. "In the future, all scheduling will need to be approved by me, with equal access for all owners." Sister was less diplomatic. "You're doing this on purpose. This is petty revenge because we didn't invite you to one dinner." I looked at her directly. "No, this is me exercising my rights as property owner. If you have an issue with that, I'd be happy to sell my share to you. Market value is approximately $350,000 for my portion. Can you provide proof of funds?" The why silence that followed was telling. They couldn't afford to buy me out, and we all knew it. Sister had been struggling to keep her boutique business afloat. Brother had recently complained about his mortgage refinancing falling through. Neither of them had the financial means to maintain their lifestyle without my subsidies, let alone purchase my share of a valuable lakefront property. Eventually they left, a caravan of disappointed family members heading back to their homes, weekend plans ruined. I spent the entire weekend alone at the lake house, enjoying the peace and quiet for the first time I could remember. I swam in the lake without being criticized for my swimming technique by Dad. I cooked meals I actually wanted to eat, not what everyone else demanded. I stayed up late watching the stars without Sister's complaints about the mosquitoes or Brother's insistence on playing loud music. It was the most relaxing weekend I'd had in years. The following week, I listed my share of the property for sale. Within a month, I had a buyer, a lovely retired couple who wanted a vacation home and were happy to share ownership with my siblings. What they didn't tell my family until after the sale was finalized was that they planned to install a security gate at the entrance and implement a strict reservation system. No more casual drop-ins or last-minute gatherings. No more monopolizing the calendar during prime summer months. Every owner would have equal access based on their ownership percentage, which meant my siblings would have significantly reduced time compared to what they were accustomed to. By midsummer, my family was in an uproar. The lake lake house that had been their free vacation spot for years was now effectively inaccessible without proper planning and permission from the new co-owners, who were sticklers for rules and schedules. The family group chat was filled with complaints about the new arrangement, with thinly veiled accusations about my betrayal of family traditions. No one acknowledged that those traditions had consistently excluded me or taken advantage of my generosity. The financial consequences of my withdrawal began to materialize in other ways as well. Mom had to hire a handyman to fix things around her house, costing her hundreds of dollars for repairs I would have done for free. Sister's business began struggling without my periodic investments. Brother had to rearrange his social life to accommodate his parental responsibilities. Grandma's grocery deliveries were now dependent on whoever in the family remembered to order them, which meant they were often late or incomplete. I received a tearful call from Mom in August. "I don't understand why you're punishing all of us," she said. "If this is about that dinner, we just assumed you were busy. You're always so independent. We didn't think you'd want to come to something so informal." "It's not about one dinner," I replied. "It's about a lifetime of being taken for granted, of being useful but not valued, of being excluded but still expected to contribute, of being the last person considered but the first person called when something breaks. That's not true. We love you. Love is an action, not just a feeling. Your actions have consistently shown that I'm not a priority in this family. I'm an afterthought at best, an ATM and handyman at worst." I ended the call with a promise to send her a letter explaining my position more clearly. That night, I wrote the hardest and most honest piece of writing I've ever produced. I detailed decades of feeling invisible, of conditional inclusion, of being valued for what I could provide rather than who I was. I explained that I was not cutting them off out of malice, but out of self-preservation. I described how exhausting it had been to constantly give without receiving, to always be available for others while no one was ever available for me. I concluded with, "I am not a resource to be exploited. I am a person with feelings, needs, and boundaries. When you're ready to treat me as an equal member of this family, we can begin to rebuild our relationship. Until then, I need to prioritize my own well-being. This isn't about punishment. It's about protection. I'm protecting myself from patterns that have depleted me emotionally and financially for years. If you want me in your life, you'll need to demonstrate that you want me, not just what I can provide." I sent copies to each family member and then blocked their numbers and social media accounts. I needed space to heal without their justifications or manipulations. I knew from experience that any vulnerability I showed would be exploited. Any boundary I set would be challenged. Any explanation I offered would be twisted. The only way to break the cycle was to step out of it completely. The following months were surprisingly peaceful. Without the constant drain of family obligations, I found time to pursue interests I had long neglected. I took a pottery class on Tuesday evenings, something I could never have committed to before because I needed to be available for family emergencies. I joined a hiking group that met on weekends. I accepted a promotion at work that required more travel, something I had previously declined because I needed to be available for family emergencies. I renovated my apartment, transforming it from a utilitarian space where I mostly slept between family obligations to a true home that reflected my personality and preferences. I discovered that I enjoyed cooking elaborate meals for myself, not just functional nutrition between responsibilities. I made new friends who didn't know me as the reliable one, the fixer, the bank. They just knew me as myself. In October, I took a 2-week solo trip to Japan, a dream vacation I had been putting off for years because someone in the family always needed something. Standing beneath the crimson maple trees in Kyoto, I felt truly free for the first time in my adult life. I had no notifications to check, no emergencies to handle, no needs to fulfill except my own. The sensation was both exhilarating and slightly terrifying. I had built my identity around being needed for so long that I wasn't quite sure who I was without that role. When I returned, there was a letter waiting in my mailbox, handwritten from Dad. Unlike the others, he had never been particularly demanding of my time or resources. He had simply gone along with the family dynamic without questioning it, a passive participant in my exclusion rather than an active architect of it. His letter was brief but sincere. He acknowledged that the family had taken me for granted and that he had been complicit through his silence. He didn't ask for forgiveness or for things to go back to how they were. He simply expressed regret and hope that someday we might have a relationship built on mutual respect. "I never realized how much we depended on you until you weren't there," he wrote. "I'm sorry it took your absence for me to see your value. It was the first genuine communication I had received from my family since I had withdrawn. No demands, no guilt trips, no manipulations, just an honest acknowledgement of the dynamic I had escaped." A week later, I received a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Nephew, using his friend's phone since I had blocked his parents' numbers. I miss you, Uncle. No one helps me with my science projects anymore. Dad tries, but he doesn't. Explain things the way you do. Can we still hang out sometimes, just us? Those two messages, from the oldest and youngest members of my family, cracked the protective shell I had built around myself. They reminded me that while the family system was toxic, not every individual within it was equally responsible. Dad had been passive but not malicious. Nephew was an innocent caught in patterns established long before his birth. I didn't rush to reconcile. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. But I did send Dad a short reply suggesting we meet for coffee the following weekend. And I sent Nephew a science kit for his upcoming birthday, with a note that I would be happy to help him with it, separately from family gatherings. Our first meeting with Dad was awkward. We had never spent time one-on-one before. He had always been a peripheral figure in my interactions with the family, present but disengaged. Over coffee, he told me about his own childhood, about feeling overshadowed by his siblings, about retreating into passivity as a coping mechanism. It didn't excuse his behavior, but it helped me understand it. He didn't ask for anything. Not help with his truck, not financial assistance, not even for me to return to family gatherings. He just wanted to talk. My first outing with Nephew was to a local science museum. Without his parents' influence, he was curious and engaged, asking thoughtful questions and sharing his own observations. We spent hours exploring exhibits, my heart warming each time he turned to me with excitement over a new discovery. At the end of the day, as I drove him home, he asked, "Are you mad at my mom and dad? Is that why you don't come over anymore?" I chose my words carefully. I'm not mad, I just needed some space to take care of myself. Sometimes grown-ups need to set boundaries to stay healthy. He nodded with surprising understanding. Like when I told Jake I wouldn't play video games with him anymore if he kept changing the rules every time he started losing? Exactly like that, I replied, amazed at his insight. It's been 6 months since I stepped away from my family, and 4 months since those first tentative steps toward reconnection. The relationship is different now. I no longer drop everything when they call. I don't offer financial assistance. I don't serve as the family's support system. Instead, I engage on my terms. I meet Dad for breakfast every other Sunday. I take Nephew to science museums occasionally. I sent Mom flowers on her birthday with a card signed, "Thinking of You." I attended Grandma's 90th birthday celebration, arriving just before it started and leaving immediately after cake, making it clear that I was there for her, not for an extended family reunion. Sister and brother have been slower to adjust to the new dynamic. They still occasionally text with thinly veiled requests for assistance, which I politely decline. They've never directly acknowledged their role in my exclusion or apologized for it. Perhaps they never will. Their pride or lack of self-awareness prevents them from seeing how their behavior contributed to the breakdown of our relationship. In their narrative, I'm still the villain who abandoned family obligations out of pettiness or selfishness. The lake house was sold completely last month. The new owners turned it into a vacation rental, erasing the last physical tie that bound our fractured family together. I took my portion of the sale proceeds and put a down payment on a small cabin in the mountains. Just for me. No co-owners, no complicated agreements, no shared responsibilities. Just a quiet place where I can retreat when the world gets too loud, where I can invite people who truly value my company, not just my utility. Some might see my actions as petty or vindictive, but I see them as necessary boundaries. Sometimes the only way people recognize your value is when you're no longer providing it. Sometimes the only way to teach people to respect your presence is through your absence. Sometimes the only way to show people how much they've depended on you is to stop being dependable. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my family. Perhaps we'll eventually build something healthier than what we had before. Perhaps some relationships will remain permanently altered or severed. What I do know is that I will never again make myself smaller to fit into someone else's idea of who I should be. I will never again set myself on fire to keep others warm. I will never again accept crumbs of affection in exchange for mountains of support. I spent 31 years trying to earn my place at a table where I was never truly welcome. Now I'm building my own table, and the only people who will have a seat are those who value me for who I am, not what I can give them. The family dinner I wasn't invited to 6 months ago was painful, but it was also the wake-up call I needed. Sometimes exclusion is the universe's way of redirecting you to where you actually belong. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I feel like I belong to myself. And you, if you were in my place, what would you have done differently? Leave your comment.